Welcome, and thank you for checking in at the Inner Game of Change podcast, where I focus on exploring the multi-layers of managing organizational change. My name is Ali Juma, and you're listening to the Inner Game of Change, the podcast. My guest today is Sharon Connolly, a multi-time winner of Microsoft MVP Award, an experienced change practitioner and a training professional. As a Microsoft MVP, Sharon is a global specialist in creating top-class change and communication artifacts, as well as delivering specialist training workshops that have proven to be of great value not only to the Australian market, but also to the global change practice community. In this episode, Sharon and I chat about the power of visualizing our information and messaging to further enhance the change experience for businesses and clients. I'm grateful to have Sharon chatting with me today. So Sharon, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate that you're joining me today in the Inner Game of Change podcast. I look forward to this conversation.
Sure. Yeah, good to be here.
Thank you so much. Sharon, before we talk a lot about the value add and your products and also the experience you bring to the change management practice community, will be fantastic for my audience to know about who you are and what you do and your passion about the change management. I'm in between contracts at the moment, but I normally work as a full-time change manager, a change lead, senior change manager in financial services. So I've just finished up at Westpac. I'm normally at AMP, CBA, normally in the financial services industry, but I have also worked in hospitality at casinos as well. So a contract change manager, and like many contract change managers, hopping around between contracts of six months to a year. Excellent. So in my head, you are a superhero. Your business is a superhero.
Yeah.
What was what's the background for this? Where did you start with this?
Yeah, well, I had no plans to start it. It's now most people will know me as the founder of Change Superhero, which anybody who hasn't come across it before provides training and templates to support the technology that change managers use in delivering their change. But I started it completely by accident. I had no plans, absolutely no plans. And what happened was, as COVID struck, I was working at CBA at the time, and everybody was just plunged into this chaos.
Yes.
And organizations weren't ready for the working from home, the hybrid working that we all now do as BAU. And I started to create some artifacts to share with the other change managers at CBA. And I posted them on LinkedIn. And I said, change managers out there, you must all be dealing with this. Let me help you. I have created these work from homes, these tools for engaging your team, some shortcuts for teams, etc. And I shared them and said, anybody want them? Well, I was inundated. Loads of people wanted them. I had no way of delivering them. I didn't have a website. I didn't have no way of getting the stuff out there. I was just emailing people, but I was happy to do that. People needed it. They were consuming them and finding them useful. And then that turned into people saying, okay, how do you do these? Can you help us to do these? And I had no plans. I ran a training company before. This was not something that I wanted to go back to because it's really hard. It's really hard. And there's so much setting up to do. I thought, I don't want to go there. But anyway, I ended up running a course. I thought maybe 10 people will book on. Let's see. And I think I've probably had about nearly 5,000 people go through the 12 courses that I now have.
Yes.
But, no plans. There was no plans. And then since then it's grown. All of the courses and all the templates that I do fix problems that change managers have. So in conversations with change professionals, where I'm working, they'll say, hey, can you help me with this survey? Can you help me? I need to create a dashboard. And when the same question comes up a few times, I think there's a need. Let me create a course for this so that more people can get this help.
Fantastic. And look, I mentioned that before, before we started recording, that I'm one of your fans. I visit your superhero website all the time, and I pick up ideas, and I'm grateful for the thoughts that you put into those. And I encourage anybody who's listening to this conversation and you are in the change management or even the project management, or even interested in how you present your information to a group of audience, check out Sharon's website. I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, I think what you've done, first of all, you breathe soul back into PowerPoint, because there's a lot of people that complain about it. And actually, I don't think the problem is with the PowerPoint. I think it's with our capabilities of how to use it and harness the power of the visuals. What you've done, you've just harnessed the power of the visuals, but more than that, you were like an author. Sometimes to be a good writer, you need coaching in writing. And so then you articulate your thoughts on a piece of paper by writing. What you've done, you are similar to a writing coach, but you are a visual coach. You're actually looking at finding, harnessing the power of the visuals to articulate our information. Is that what it is?
Yeah, and again, it all links back to what you need to do in your role as a change manager. We're often on a meeting agenda with the steerco, with senior leadership team, and they'll say, can we have it on a page? And you've got to get that information on a page without it looking like a complete dog's breakfast.
Yes.
So I slowly learned more and more on how to do that. And I'm always learning as well. I'm always looking for inspiration with other people's designs and other things that I see. And I've got a bookcase full of inspirational stuff on presenting your ideas. And it comes from a need to do this at work.
Yes. So the big help that I see is that sometimes, especially, and I've done some analysis actually, you're saving. If I'm starting a new project, life cycle of project is around 3 to 6 months. Mm-hmm. If I start on a new project, it'll take me probably about a solid couple of weeks to put things together. And this is even without a lot of thinking about the content. What you're doing is saving me a lot of time and effort. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But indirectly, you are actually also coaching me through what needs to be captured.
Oh, yeah. And this wasn't one of my first courses, but I started off just doing the PowerPoint coaching. My background years before I got into change management was in IT training. So I was a Microsoft trainer doing, teaching courses like Word, Excel. But some of the latter courses that I've developed are around change frameworks and change toolkits. And one of the things, and I was one of these people that you come out of an organization like Westpac, and I was there for a few years, and everything is templated. Everything has to follow a particular framework, and you rarely start with a blank sheet of paper and design the change from scratch. And when I came out of Westpac for the first time, I went for an interview and for a job that sounded really cool. And the lady interviewing me said, well, Sharon, if you had a blank piece of paper and you could design this change from scratch, where would you start? And I didn't have any idea. I really didn't know, because all I knew how to do was to go to the Westpac drives and to pull out the templates and fill them in. And I never really thought about whether they were right, whether they were fit for purpose. And most of the time, the changes that I had been involved in were already running. So this was an interesting challenge of what would you do from scratch? And I really didn't know. And now if somebody said to me, here's a blank sheet of paper, I'd say I need a whiteboard, because I've got so much to talk about, so much input on this journey that I developed my framework that I have taken with me to all of the organizations that I go to, and you pick up little snippets of information and you add to it, and that's what I share with people. And like a lot of my courses, when I first started to share those, I'm thinking, surely everybody knows this. surely I'm everybody's going to ask for their money back because they know this. They don't. They don't. And I think sometimes the other thing about a lot of my courses, and my courses are also lessons to change managers generally on our delivery. So as you're learning from me, as I'm sharing them, there are lessons in how we deliver our projects and how people consume our information. One of the other reasons that my courses are so successful and so well received is that people already know about 50% of what I'm showing them. And that means that they can just pick up the nuggets, the tips, the tricks, and they can really hit the ground running. When you learn something from scratch, and this is where you're talking about your projects there, when you're looking at that blank piece of paper and you're starting it from scratch, it is an uphill struggle. Yes. When we are trying to teach our stakeholders a brand new way of working, it's tough. If we are making tweaks, if we're just helping people build on their existing knowledge, then they're going to hit the ground running faster. And this is one of the things. So because I'm giving people fixes to things that drive them nuts. And I see people, when I'm in the office, I see people struggling, trying to get things lined up and spending hours and hours on basic PowerPoint things. So when you say to them, oh, this is how you get a stakeholder's face into a circle. This is how you make your circles the same size. This is how you line things up. They know that this is going to save them so much time. So they're like, wow, this is fantastic.
Yes, I love them, and I think over time I've discovered that if I compare and I went to your website and I compared the original templates with the recent ones, you can see your journey, and
100%.
Yes, you can see that, and that's a testament to what you just mentioned before, your sentiment around your learning as well. We know that you put a lot of thoughts into how you design things. Are there some principles that you follow, Sharon?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I would say for anybody who's new as well, 100%, if you scrolled, there's over 400 templates now. If you scroll to the bottom, and I actually got rid of some of them, but if you scroll to some of the ones at the bottom, they are really not great compared to the ones that I do now. And I have challenged myself, and I continue to learn. And as I teach, one of the ways that I continue to learn is that I put it out to my Change Superhero audience. Challenge me, ask me questions. And when people ask me questions and I don't know the answer, I go and find the answer. So I'm learning all the time. But yeah, I have massively improved my skills. So anybody who's thinking that they can't do that, they can. But sorry, what was the last question?
Any principles that you follow when you put things
principles? Yeah, well, one of them that I teach is the rule of thirds. Anybody who's a photographer or an artist will know about the rule of thirds. It's just lining things up and having some type of grid in the background, and it's making sure, the rule of thirds, and also contrasting colors, making sure we need to design for accessibility so that visually impaired people or somebody just looking at it on their phone without their glasses on, we need to have high contrast in the colors. And those are two very quick wins. Make sure that things are lined up in a page in thirds, and then get that color contrast in, and that color contrast is quite often using white text instead of black text or dark text.
Yes. And I've studied a little bit of design, and I spent countless hours trying to understand the psychology of colors and how you present information. Sharon, you and I know that creating certainty for our stakeholders is one of the critical things that we can help a business with. And when I looked at your templates, I think it's a really nice balance between how you use color and the properties in the templates, and the use of the white space as well.
I mean, the thing with color, and other change managers out there, I know that they'll be nodding and going, yeah, is that actually it doesn't really matter what we think about color, because nearly everybody needs to use their corporate brand anyway.
Yes.
And a lot of organizations have got challenging corporate brands, so it's difficult to present our information. If your organization uses all blues, then how can you make things stand out if they haven't got an accent color? Conversely, if your organization has got a really bright color palette, how can you create a calming journey for people when you've got really bright things? So there are challenges around those, and we need to do the best that we can with our corporate templates. And the other point that you mentioned there that most people don't realize is that a lot of the time we need to make things smaller so that we have more white space. So I am often taking people's text and making it smaller rather than bigger because of the way that the psychology that you were mentioning and the way that we read shapes and that we pick things up. There has to be this white space around things. Yes.
And it's very powerful. You also use a lot of icons, so you create a lot of, it's almost a mix of infographic and information. I like a lot to use the infographic way of presenting information. Often, for example, a steering committee will really appreciate a high-level summary of things, and infographic is usually useful. But when you work, depends on the group you're working with. But that level of certainty we offer when somebody looks at as a piece of information organized in such a way, because we look for patterns mentally. Yes. And we also look for clarity in information. And if there's too much text in there, then whether we like it or not, we look at it as an information overload.
Well, PowerPoint is used for everything now.
Sure.
There are lots of documents that we probably shouldn't use PowerPoint for, but we do. And people need to differentiate between, am I presenting this or am I sending this to somebody to read? Because if you're presenting something to somebody to read, there are also design concepts, some ways of helping them to consume that information. And one of the courses that I teaches people, how do you create great, almost like ebooks? How do you create ebooks that people are going to read? But you have to, that's not what you present. So think about, who is my audience? How are they consuming this information? A lot of people will be reading things on their phone, maybe on their phone or a tablet. Maybe they're multitasking. Are you presenting in a Teams meeting? Are you presenting where somebody's at the back of the room? Or are you sending it to them to read? And you really need to think about who they are. You need to put yourself in the shoes of your audience and design for them, not design for you.
Absolutely. Completely agree. I call it send the information, and the information is going to have to lead them to a conclusion and insight without you being there. So that's what you mentioned around, and I love this idea. I haven't really thought about it that way, but the idea of an ebook is that we leave the audience with it to read, and we don't need to be there to explain it.
Oh, so much of it, and all of us get asked to present, and then the time that we were given is used up for other discussions. So you want to have, here it is on a page at a high level, and here are the 10 pages behind it. But those 10 pages behind are designed a little bit like an ebook.
Yes. From your experience, Sharon, I'm curious to learn, what do you think works really well with PowerPoint and the way we present information? And what do you think some of the stuff that we should not really be using PowerPoint for?
Well, the thing is we use it for everything. We do use it for everything, and it's making sure, and this is one of things that this is one of my skills. This is one of the things that I teach all of the Change Superhero tribe, is that you can use PowerPoint to make videos. You can use PowerPoint to make interactive training. You can create the ebooks. Yes. You can do all of these things. My latest, and here's an example of my learning. I didn't realize PowerPoint could do this. I was working with somebody, and she was creating a change request on PowerPoint, and there were all these tick boxes. And I said, how are stakeholders going to tick those boxes? How are they going to tick the boxes? And there were tons of them. And I'm picturing, and again, this is change manager in me.
Yes.
I'm sending this to this really busy project manager, and this project manager is now going to spend ages figuring out, what am I supposed to do there? Am I supposed to put a tick in it? Am I supposed to put a cross in it? Do I say yes? No, what am I supposed to do there? Oh, and now it's not lined up and they're all over the place. So I said to this, stakeholder, does it have to be in PowerPoint? Because you can't tick boxes in PowerPoint. And then the answer was yes, because we then need to screenshot it and then needs to go to steer code. I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand it. But a lot of people would go, okay, that's fine. Whereas I think can you do tick boxes in PowerPoint? Is there a way to do this? And you can, and it's pretty easy. And I found, so off I went, I watched a few YouTube videos, and then I figured out how to do it. And then I ran, you might know, I run a lot of free courses for change professionals. I ran a free course for change professionals on how do you do tick boxes, how do you do drop down, check boxes, radio buttons, how do you do these in PowerPoint? So it was a half-hour course to really change the way that people are able to use this tool. And it was learning for me and learning for the community as well. But what you're doing, the main thing that you're doing is you're fixing a problem. So what I do with PowerPoint is the same as what change managers do and good presenters do. What's the problem? What am I trying to solve? What am I trying to fix? Because if I just presented a course, it's very nice, but the same thing when we change something, we have to try to fix a problem. What is going wrong for you? What are your pain points? And this is, I think, as well, where, I ran a training company before, but I'd never focused so much on pain points and fixing problems as I do now, which is one of the reasons that everything is pretty successful, because we're making people's lives better. The pain that exists.
Yes. Talking about what else you can use PowerPoint for, I'm actually, just 2 weeks ago, I joined a project, and I came late to the project for reasons, beyond me, but I was asked to join a project parachuted in the middle of the battlefield. And so I didn't really have a lot of time in the timeline to communicate the whole how we're going to support you and train you and what happened after. So I actually used PowerPoint to create a non-linear clip with 3 slides, and I had the executive sponsor recording their voice on the slides.
Yep.
And then we created a minute and a bit clip, and we sent it to over 100 people. And in that way, then I don't need to invite everybody, and but it was, the final product was such that they actually didn't believe that it was actually in PowerPoint.
Very, very much, the interactive learning, the videos, that type of thing. What I enable people to do, what people can do when you're sending stuff out to agencies. So this is the concept of the ebook or the videos. People are sending this stuff out to agencies, and you can create yourself something that might cost between 5 and 10 grand if you send it out to an agency. And the problem as well with sending stuff to an agency is that they're probably going to create it in tools that you don't have, you can't edit, and it means that every time you need to make a change, it's going to take you time and it's going to cost you money. So you're never going to get the same results that you would get sending it to an agency, but it's good enough. It's good enough it's fit for purpose, and it's fast and it's cheap, and it allows you to be very agile and reactive to the audience and take that feedback and make those tweaks yourself in the project.
Yes. So true. Especially around the topic or the point that agencies usually use their own tools, and therefore they use InDesign, Adobe Illustrator, InDesign for this type of thing, which knocks the spots off of PowerPoint. Yes. But not everybody has it. It's expensive and it's pretty difficult to learn. Yeah. Whereas you can get 80% of the way there with PowerPoint, which you have, and the learning journey is pretty easy. So Sharon, you mentioned that the inception of your passion around this was born out of pain, basically, during COVID. Actually, COVID helped a lot of people. Actually, this podcast was born as a result of COVID. How is the design of those templates, how is that helping in the remote environment? Now, most of us actually work in a kind of hybrid environment. Do they help when you pay attention to the way you present information?
I don't think that, apart from the fact that there's quite a bit of content in there that talks about hybrid working and talks about team dynamics and leadership, I don't think that my templates lend themselves to the hybrid working model or being emailed or whether you're presenting live. I don't think that there's much differentiation between the way that you're working there. I think one of the things that I've always tried to do, and anybody who follows me on LinkedIn will know that I tend to, on a Friday, I'll create some stuff on a Friday and I'll create some stuff over the weekend, because when I'm stressed, I find it really therapeutic to create one of these cool PowerPoints. It's something that I can do. It's something that you have an end result that looks really cool at the end. And I always try to put some content in there as well. I always, I might read an article and think, so I might see somebody share some bullet points on LinkedIn. I think those are really great, but I can help them. I can make them look better. And I often attribute the author and create a new post for them. I try to put content in there. I don't know whether people use the content or whether they just download them and they switch to, if I've got six great communication tips for leaders, do they use it as those tips, or do they just download it and change it to, 6 steps for my change? I don't know. I think a bit of both. What about you? What do you use? Do you use the content, or do you just type your own stuff over the top?
I use a combination of things. I like ideas. I like the way I present information. I focus a lot on how the stakeholders receive the information and how I create clarity out of that information. So I used some of your templates in the past. I liked some of them, especially when it comes to around things like processes. And because, they're beautiful, they're wonderful, they're clear, I can just use them. But also sometimes you create dashboards and change on a page summary.
Yeah.
I take some ideas of it. Sometimes I don't use the whole thing. But that's the beauty of your work, is it's an open forum, open market, open town hall, whatever you want to call it, for people to come. And the idea is that people walk away with a bag of goodies, and then they can use them and make their life easier. And if they make their life easier, change is adopted better in the workplace. That's your aim.
So many change managers message me and say that I've really helped them to look good. And change managers generally are really special people. They are people who put their project and the needs of their stakeholders above themselves. And It's great that I can help them to look better and to do their job better. It's really a privilege to do that, because as change managers, our job is to make our sponsor and our project look good. So we should be taking a back seat. But I think that some of the work that I do and the things that I share help change managers to shine and to do their best work.
Yes. There's also the psychology of when stakeholders look at your product and the way you present information, that's a reflection of how much effort and thought you put into your information. And they appreciate that.
A lot of the things that I do, so when I started at Westpac recently, because it's such a big organization, a lot of people, I caught up with a lot of people that were working there already for coffee, and just had some nice coffee meetings when I was back in the office. And as some of them were saying is, whoa, it's not until you break them down that you realize there's so many little bits.
Yes. That
is not necessary. To get your message across to your stakeholders really well. The amount of detail that I go into is not necessary. It's a passion project for me to make things look outstanding, but you could do what I do to like 20% and you could still get some really good results for clarity of message in your PowerPoints. You do not have to do it to the degree that I do it to.
The beauty, though, that when you go through the details, and for example, 10 years ago, I probably look at somebody's work and I go through the details and I don't understand them, I break them. But through breaking them, I actually understand how to fix them. And through the fixing, that becomes my learning experience. So if I look at your templates now, even though that some of them are so detailed and the way they put the design in there, it's indirectly helping us learning new things.
Because have you watched them on, for anybody who doesn't know, what I do is that I video myself creating them and share that process on LinkedIn.
Yes.
So each one will take me generally between 35 minutes and an hour. And then I record myself doing it, and then I put them on LinkedIn, speed it up normally 20 times. So I try to keep the videos about 2 minutes. So people watch, I don't hold anything back. And I also put learning tips on. So I'll say, watch at 45 seconds, here's your learning tip for this week. So I share all of that with people. And, you could say, well, if you keep doing that, will they come on your course? I think, yes, would more people come on the courses if I didn't share everything? I don't know. I don't think so. I think that when you give so much away, people go, wow, she's giving all of that away. If that's for free, what is in the course? Because there's always loads more.
Well, I can tell you, Sharon, I can tell you a story. I'm learning golf now, and there are millions of videos on YouTube on golf. It doesn't mean that I don't need a coach. And I can also tell you that if I learn from a master side by side, the learning experience is way richer than me learning from YouTube or watching your work online. So I guarantee you that, look, you might lose 10% of people, but the 90% appreciate the attendance and the engagement, because when you hear the master sharing the information with you, that is different from watching a clip.
Oh, 100%. And, there is very little that I teach people that you cannot find on YouTube. And I use YouTube myself. We're talking about the checkboxes and the drop downs that I was just sharing with you earlier about my latest thing. I had to watch so many YouTube videos. And one of the things that I know when I start to watch it, I know where I can zoom up and down to. I already know 50% here. There's just a few bits and pieces. So I'm whizzing through these YouTube videos. But I watched dozens of them, dozens and dozens of searching. And then what I do is I take that learning, and this is the change manager in the instructional designer and the trainer in me. What I can do is that I explain it in a way that people can understand, and I structure, because that's my job. All of these people who are doing this stuff on YouTube, they're technology people, they're not trainers. So as well, yes, go find it on lots of courses, but will you actually get it packaged up and delivered in a way that is relevant to the tasks that you need to do and fixes the problems and is easy to consume? Probably not. And that's what you're paying for, or not. I do a free course every fortnight. So there's lots of stuff out there for people who are not in a position to pay for things. There's loads of stuff out there.
Well, the beauty of your work is that you are in the arena. So you know what pain we go through as change managers.
Yeah.
You know what we need. So you're in the profession. And therefore, I trust your word over a technical person or a master in PowerPoint, but not really in my profession. So I think that's the value of your work, and I'm one of those people who really appreciates that.
And it was really great to be recognized by Microsoft for doing that as well. Who I didn't even know that the MVP existed, but there is a special award that they give to people who serve the community, which is the MVP award, which I'm a lucky recipient of 3 years in a row now.
Fantastic.
Which is
And so, Sharon, we talked about that your templates and your work and the value of your work is not only can be used by the change practice community. I do believe that the project management community can also utilize it.
Oh, absolutely, because there are lots of change managers who put a bit of a project management hat on, and many more project managers who don't have the luxury of a change management professional. Or you were just talking earlier about you didn't come into your recent project early enough. So one of the other things, there's quite a bit of content on my slides and in the templates that help people who are junior change managers, change analysts, project professionals, stakeholders who maybe don't have a change manager. There's stuff to guide them through the change delivery as well.
Yes. We are coming to the end of the podcast. I'm loving this conversation. We as a change practice community from the arena, what's your advice for us?
Generally, advice on
the PowerPoint, on the way we present information.
So my advice is don't take no for an answer in terms of the technology of PowerPoint or Excel or SharePoint or any tool that you have access to. Look at other ways of using it, because a lot of the stuff that I do in Excel or even designing my website, you have a problem. You need to come at it with an entrepreneurial mindset.
Yes.
This is what I have. I can't use another tool. This is what I've got. It doesn't do what I need it to do. How am I going to get it to do what I need it to do? And there is always a way to move forward if you are creative. So number one is, PowerPoint is an amazing tool, but you have to be an amazing driver of that tool. So that, and then the other thing, here's the main thing. Okay? The main thing. Many of us use PowerPoint for our own benefit. So it's a brain dump from you. That's where you start, but that is not where you finish. PowerPoint should be a tool for your audience to comprehend your message.
Yeah.
So start off by going, here's my brain dump all over there. That's just where you start. You then have to think about the audience listening to or reading this has a gap. There's something they don't know. There's something they can't do. There's a decision they need to make. Something must change after they have watched my presentation or they have read this page. Your job with PowerPoint is to close that gap. Now, whether it is with a detailed page of text formatted in a way that they can easily read it, whether it's an infographic, whether an interview, so you've interviewed somebody and you popped a video in there. There's so many ways of doing it. But focus on the fact that PowerPoint is a tool to help you as a communicator create a shift in your audience. That is the main thing. And it doesn't matter how you do that. And sometimes it might be a white slide with 5 bullet points on it. That could be all you need, but focus on the fact of what you're trying to do is create a shift in the mindset of the audience. And one of the problems that we have with PowerPoint is that quite often you don't go with it. It goes around on its own. So it has to do the talking for you.
Yes.
So it's focus on the audience. That's the main thing.
I love it. We keep going back to know your audience, know what they need, and find the best way.
That's general change management, isn't it? It's stakeholder engagement, it's impact analysis, it's what we do as change managers, which is common sense, but sadly, common sense is not that common.
It's not common practice. Yes. I'm loving this conversation. Sharon, I know you add a lot of value to the community. How would people, if they don't know you, how would they reach out to you?
Well, I'm very active on LinkedIn, so you can just search for me on LinkedIn, Sharon Connolly, or I do have a website, which is changesuperhero.com.au, where you can go and sign up for free courses. There's a fortnightly freebie. There's lots of paid courses, free templates and paid templates. And increasingly, which is fantastic, I do lunch and learns for organizations. So a lot of organizations getting me to come in and train their change practice or their learning community to all get better at these PowerPoints.
Lunch and learn, PowerPoint.
Lunch and learn,
yes,
brown bag sessions for PowerPoint and creating videos and stuff like that. And there's an immediate benefit for a huge amount of people.
Are you ever thinking of writing an ebook or?
Well, possibly. I actually have a published book already on networking, but
yes.
So having published a book with a publisher, it's a big task. There's a lot of things still still due to come out for Change Superhero. So a new website was just released just this weekend. Watch this space. Lots of things coming out soon.
Fantastic. And congratulations for being the MVP for Microsoft 3 years in a row, and hopefully another year this year and next year. As part of the change management community, I really value the work you're doing, and I'm privileged to have you talking to me today, Sharon. It's been a pleasure having you. I hope to get you back in the new year, and hopefully new things from Sharon Connolly.
We can chat about things other than PowerPoint too. So other applications or change processes. Delighted to be here. I'd
love that. And very soon I'm actually getting a group of professionals, and so I'm creating a forum, and definitely will invite you to that. It's been a pleasure having you, Sharon, with me, and I really appreciate your time. And until next time, stay well and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. To know more about my guests and this podcast, check the innergameofchange.com.au website, and remember to subscribe. I can't wait to share with you my next episode. Until then, stay well and stay safe.